Every morning you wake up, open your eyes, and instantly resume an ongoing, uninterrupted narrative that you call your life. You feel an innate, unquestioned sense that there is a distinct, persistent entity sitting somewhere behind your eyes, a central commander inside your mind, looking out at the world through biological lenses, directing your decisions, storing your memories, feeling your emotions, and steering your body through time. This deep-seated, intuitive sense of being a unified, permanent self who endures from early childhood to old age is perhaps the most fundamental building block of human consciousness. We construct our entire lives around this implicit assumption, our legal systems, our personal ambitions, our moral obligations, our existential fears, and our continuous background anxieties about survival and legacy. Yet, over 2.5 millennia ago in ancient India, a radical spiritual teacher named Siddhartha Gautama put forth a proposition so staggering that it continues to dismantle our standard view of reality. This central commander, this permanent soul, this enduring self you call, does not actually exist. In Pali, this revolutionary teaching is known as anatta, or non-self, and it forms one of the central, non-negotiable pillars of Buddhist philosophy. Anatta does not claim that you are a physical hallucination or that you do not exist in a practical, everyday sense. Rather, it asserts that the independent self is an optical illusion of consciousness, a convenient linguistic shorthand for an ever-shifting, deeply interconnected collection of physical and mental processes that are To understand how this grand illusion is constructed and sustained, classical Buddhist analysis breaks the entire spectrum of human experience down into 5 dynamic, impermanent components known as the skandhas, or the 5 aggregates. When you dissect everything you can possibly experience, you find nothing outside of these 5 streams of phenomenon. First is form, which encompasses the physical body, sensory organs, and the material universe. Second is sensation or feeling, which is the immediate, visceral reaction of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral tone attached to every moment of experience. Third is perception, the mental labeling and pattern recognition that transforms raw sensory data into identifiable objects, concepts, and language. Fourth are mental formations, the sprawling realm of thoughts, emotions, volitions, habits, desires, anxieties, and psychological conditioning. And fifth is consciousness, the bare awareness that registers these phenomena. When the Buddha rigorously examined these 5 aggregates, he asked a simple yet devastating diagnostic question: can any single one of these individual pieces be called a permanent, unchanging self? Your physical body is constantly shedding cells, aging, digesting, and changing its molecular composition. Your feelings fluctuate from moment to moment based on chemistry and environment. Your perceptions shift dramatically with mood and context. Your thoughts arise unbidden without your conscious permission, and your awareness itself ebbs and flows between waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. None of these aggregates possess an immutable, independent essence, nor do they collectively form a static entity. A famous historical dialogue illustrates this truth through the story of the Greek king Milinda and the Buddhist sage Nagasena. When the king asks Nagasena who he really is, Nagasena points to the king's royal chariot and asks a series: is the wooden pole the chariot? Are the wheels the chariot? Is the axle, the frame, or the reins the chariot? The king admits that none of these individual parts are the chariot, nor does the chariot exist as a secret ghost hiding somewhere apart from them. The word chariot is merely a nominal label, a conceptual shortcut used to describe a functional arrangement of temporary parts. In precisely the same way, the word I is merely a linguistic label applied to a complex, temporary convergence of physical matter, biochemical signals, fleeting thoughts, and transient emotions. What makes the ancient doctrine of anatta so deeply compelling today is that contemporary neuroscience, cognitive psychology, and Western philosophy have independently arrived at almost the exact same conclusion through scientific empirical investigation. When modern neuroscientists peer into the human brain using advanced neuroimaging technology, they do not find a central control room, a Cartesian homunculus, or a single neural center where consciousness resides and executive decisions are made. Instead, the brain operates as a massive, decentralized, highly parallel processing system with billions of interconnected neurons communicating simultaneously. What we experience as a singular, cohesive ego is largely generated by a complex network of interconnected brain regions called the default mode network, which becomes hyperactive when we engage in self-referential thought, rumination, projecting into the future, and constructing narrative memories about our past. David Hume, the great Scottish philosopher of the Enlightenment, arrived at this exact realization. He noted that whenever he entered most intimately into what he called himself, he always stumbled upon some particular perception of heat or cold, light or shade, love or hatred, pain or pleasure, but never could catch himself at any time without a perception, concluding that the mind is nothing but a bundle or collection of different perceptions in perpetual flux. In cognitive neuroscience, split-brain experiments pioneered by Michael Gazzaniga revealed the existence of what he termed the interpreter module in the left hemisphere of the brain, a neuromechanism that automatically fabricates plausible, storytelling explanations for choices and emotional states initiated by subconscious processes, effectively lying to us to maintain the illusion that a unified, conscious author is in complete control. Modern philosophers of mind, such as Thomas Metzinger in his landmark work The Ego Tunnel, describe the human self as a transparent mental model, a sophisticated software simulation created by natural selection to help the biological organism navigate its environment, manage survival drives, and track complex social relationships. We do not possess a self, our brain runs a self-model, and because we lack conscious access to the lower-level computational processes generating this model, we mistake the mental simulation for a solid, enduring reality. Understanding the illusion of the ego is far more than an abstract intellectual exercise. A scientific curiosity, or a bleak philosophical paradox, it is the ultimate key to deep psychological liberation and the cessation of existential suffering, which Buddhism terms dukkha. Most human psychological pain, from chronic social anxiety and narcissistic vanity to the paralyzing fear of failure, we spend our entire lives terrified of judgment, obsessively craving validation, clinging to temporary states of pleasure, and panicking over impermanence because we operate under the delusion that there is a solid, vulnerable person inside us who can be damaged, disgraced, or destroyed. When you begin to see through the illusion of the ego through dedicated contemplative practice, mindfulness, or rigorous self-inquiry, a monumental existential shift occurs in how you relate to your moment-to-moment experience. You begin to recognize that thoughts do not require a central thinker to produce them, they simply arise due to prior biological and environmental causes, echoing through awareness like sound waves echoing in an open room. Physical sensations, emotional grief, anger, or anxiety are no longer personal defects happening to a fragile you, they are simply temporary meteorological events occurring within the vast, spacious climate of consciousness. When there is no rigid, defended entity at the center of your universe, an insult loses its target, failure loses its existential sting, and the relentless pressure to project a flawless personal persona completely dissolves. You cease viewing yourself as an isolated, threatened object trapped inside a hostile world, and instead recognize yourself as a dynamic, open-ended, and continuous process fully integrated with the cosmos, much like an ocean wave coming to realize that it is not an isolated drop of water fighting against the tide, but rather a temporary, expressive movement of the ocean itself. In letting go of the illusion of the self, you do not fall into cold nihilism or lose your capacity for love, rather, you unlock profound empathy, effortless presence, and an unshakable inner peace that comes from finally stepping out of the exhausting prison of the ego.